everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Once again, joined by Mark Darden, checking out the WETWORKS porn. And today we're going to be continuing on with our WETWORKS review. Last week, we checked out WETWORKS #1. So logically, this week, we're going to be checking out WETWORKS issue #2 by Will Sportasio. Mark, how you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Nice slew of gigs over the weekend. So got to do 3 gigs, do a little mini professional run. Very cool, very fun moments there.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad it went well.
Yeah, too.
So let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take a look at the cover, I guess, and we'll start chatting about that. Very quickly, I'm just going to throw up my version of WETWORKS #2 because there's a variant cover. So anyone who's interested.
Yeah, they had a cool variant cover, and it connected with the other covers coming out that month.
Yeah, you said it was like so it's like a mosaic, and you kind of puzzle them together.
Yeah, from all the Wildstorm books.
Were each of those sections though drawn by different artists? It's not all Will's.
Yeah, I think each artist drew their own, but there was a layout design so that you could go together. Yeah,
makes sense.
But then on to the regular cover.
Ooh. Yeah, what does that look like? It's your typical versus cover, right? Hero versus adversary.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's an okay cover. I mean, obviously, it's kind of pales a bit. It pales quite a bit, really, compared to the previous cover that had like the 2 cool figures and they look awesome. And then it's a triple fold out, showing that like, oh, look at it's
issue 1, right? So marketing and all that, I can understand that you want to give a pizzazz kind of image. Yeah.
But this cover, it just looks like a pretty good image from inside the comic book. Like you could see this as being a panel from a dream.
Absolutely. The art's obviously not bad. The art's great, but it does feel a little bit like what I'd call a deadline cover. You know, when you're not sure, you do the big face, you do the 2 guys facing off, or you just do the character in a cool pose on kind of a negative space background, and you get a little bit of that here. So not much more to say about the cover, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if you made it look more like it's a cover image, like it's not an image from the story, but a hint of or a prelude, like if the guy was facing forward with more emotion on his face and there was, a vampire coming in from over his shoulder, which is kind of stereotypical, but still, I think, effective for a striking cover. If the monster's looming in from behind, coming in, you could get a lot more of the detail. But yeah, it looks like a good panel from inside the comic rather than a cover that like, oh yeah, I really need to know what's going on. No.
Yeah, this might be a weird comment, but for some reason, when I see the WETWORKS guys with none of their military gear, I feel like he's naked on this cover, even though we don't see his lower body. I guess maybe it's because of that shot in the first issue once they get the symbiotes on and that huge explosion, and they're all naked and genitalless.
The Ken doll look.
The Ken doll, you got it. The action figure crotch. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
So technically naked.
Yeah, it's like a dog without the collar on. Just weird for some reason. All right. Well, not much to say about it.
Yeah, that's about it. Run-of-the-mill cover.
We get the lettering page. Again, they're doing this weird thing where they're using that paper texture that has all those crevices and dark lines, and then it's not as bad here. It's not nearly as small a print as the letter from the previous issue. So it is readable, but your eyes have to fight against the black bits in the background, and it is more straining on the eyes. It's not a good choice.
Yeah, it's still a little annoying. You're right that I think the change of font and the size of the lettering is a bit better. The lettering itself is bolder than the lettering that was chosen in the first issue. But yeah, still a bit of like visual annoyance as you're trying to read this stuff. So we got Will's plot and pencils, good old Brandon Choi plot and dialogue, Scott Williams once again on the inks, and Joe Scioto on colors.
Yeah, the only change they made is previous issue Bill Oakley was doing the letters, but they got Richard Starkings in Comicraft, which if you're making comics, Comicraft's one of the good websites to look up and check out for fonts. Like you can find a lot of fun and interesting fonts there. If you want a character specific font for your book, you know, you might find one that's unique so that just your one guy speaks differently. I've gotten a lot of good fonts from there. That
I
guy,
look at
that guy.
into more of that. You know, with my own comics making, you know, my lettering is okay. I'd like to improve it and keep, but you know, I really, I've used digital fonts before, but I'm really working on my actual lettering too. I always find that when the person drawing is also doing the lettering, there's just an even more kind of coherent, artistic kind of look to the thing, and I really like that. So, but hey, you know, the way most comics are produced at the bigger companies, yeah, it's an assembly line kind of process rather than an auteur kind of, you know,
Yeah. The
production.
upsides of the digital lettering are the ability to go back and make final edits. Because sometimes once everything comes together and you're looking at the art, you see details that don't need to be covered because the art's got it, but you also see if like, oh shoot, we need to mention these things.
Yeah.
Or you just get a better you get a better idea of how to say it. The other issue I've seen with, and I mean this is no offense, like sometimes people, especially with effects lettering, I think the effects lettering almost always looks better when the artist does it because they put it into the art. But when an artist does the lettering, sometimes it then becomes that last thing where they've spent their time conceptualizing and doing the layouts and then doing pencils and then inks, and like by the time it gets to lettering, at that point it's just something that needs to get done, versus if there's a separate letterer where this is the only thing they're contributing and they really like they're putting their all into trying to make it look great. And so just I've encountered that is what I'm saying. I've encountered where the artist did the lettering and it was just like some final task they just needed to do, and it was better to have somebody else come in with fresh, you know, energy and excitement.
Yeah, and I mean for myself, you know, I did the first few issues of my Big Baby comics hand lettered, and then eventually moved on
Oh,
to the digital fonts just because for time, it was a time
yeah,
saving thing. It really
right.
is a lot faster. So it was
Yeah.
kind of a concession where I was like, man, you know, I'm spending so much time on this lettering when I can be working on the art for the next issue. So, you know, I kind of conceded and started using digital lettering.
But yeah, effects, I almost always prefer that the artist has done them because of how they'll weave them in. They'll build them around the figure better behind things.
It's integrated into the art. It's not an afterthought. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah,
Speaking of sound effects, this first
right.
page here has some funny ones. Fazam
Yeah,
and Varump. Varump,
yeah.
I really think is pretty funny.
And where they're positioned over the art, it's not, I
Not
typically, it's
ideal.
not how I would want to do them. The ones up top, I don't mind so much, although I don't like how sharp edged they are compared to the art, but it's not terrible. But the other ones going over the guns, like I'm not put there. I
Well,
wouldn't do that.
and you know, the one on the left, okay, visually I associate it to what's happening with the gun, but the one
Mhm.
on the bottom right there, I'm like, is that the gun or is that his crotch? You know, like what's going on there? Is he getting a
Yeah.
boner from shooting all these guns or something? There's
Yeah.
another fetish we just discovered.
No, no, no. The coloring on the face of that figure up front too is because of all those blacks, he really blends into the other character's arm. I really had to search to find that face. I saw the body and then I thought maybe the effect was over his face, and I'm like, oh no,
I
that what
agree.
looked like a
Yeah,
shoulder
yeah,
pad. That's his helmet piece.
his whole head very much gets lost. It almost, like you said, it almost looks like a piece of the other guy's armor or tech on his arm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird
Yeah.
one.
'Cause you've got the shoulder pad there, and then you've got his you know, his listening device piece, and because of the colors of their face, there might have been a good time for the artist to either go darker or go pop with one of the figures, you know, do a color that's like clearly not the real color, but just for effect,
For
change it up.
contrast. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you need some contrast there. That's a just a contrast issue. This, I mean, good on him for starting the book with a nice kind of
yeah,
action-packed splash
action
page,
pack.
bring us right
Yeah.
into the action. I think that's good, as opposed to what was going on in issue one. Um, uh, this shot though to me is eerily similar to one of the early Wetworks ads, the advertisements
Oh,
from the earlier, like the first wave of Image Comics. So I don't know if he decided to slightly recycle a layout that he had or something, but yeah, just feels a little repetitive from stuff I've seen before, but not the end of the
Yeah.
world.
They're also still doing those weird gunshot effects, just
Yeah,
those weird blobs that are very sharp in line, and then there's a lot of rendering to the coloring, a lot of layers,
they've
and
added this blur effect to it as well.
yeah, and it covers over and fights the art. Like I don't like it covering the gun. Just have it come from out of the gun. Um,
Maybe that's the idea, is that, if I throw this in, I have a lot less gun to draw. That's what I feel like's going
maybe.
on there.
Um, on the compliment end, I mean, the art looks good. There's
Of
no doubt.
course. Yeah, yeah,
But I love the background robots as opposed to like issue 3 of Youngblood, where you've got one really cool robot up front, at least cool in that it's very detailed. But then there's a lot of blurry robots in the background that are just kind of basic shapes thrown together. And in this background, like all the robots look detailed in WETWORKS. I
yeah.
like all of those robots. I want to look at them. They don't feel tacked on. Um,
The only weird
yeah,
aspect to it for me is the one that's closest to us that we can at the bottom left. His
yeah.
face is just kind of odd to me. It almost feels like, I don't know how I describe it. It looks like he's got a smile. Like he looks
Yeah.
like a friendly robot almost.
There is some shadow stuff to it for sure, yeah. But then like those big guns on his shoulders are cool. And then the
Yeah, yeah,
robot
yeah.
that's front and center at the bottom is well detailed, and the robots behind it, like all of them, the time has definitely been put into them, and I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like again, like we've said before with Wills and WetWorks, the art is always stellar. Rarely is there anything that I'm like, meh.
Yeah. So we got the guy in the mask. That's good because that helps him stand out. He's got the wild hair and he protects his face. Even after he has the golden armor, he's still wearing his face mask. And then you got
Well,
a big guy.
these are the two guys on the team that to me seem to have a more distinct visual identity, right? You've got the guy with the mask and the hair. He's got a bit more armor on and stuff, and then the other guy's just, he's the big guy, so obviously the proportions help. But I just feel like they do have a slightly more distinctive look, where when I think of WetWorks, I kind of think of these two guys.
All right. Yeah, let's keep rocking.
Yeah,
Um, and this opening sequence is just a testing sequence. They've hooked up with the guy Wayan, I think his name is.
yeah.
Um, and so he was working in the war room with Lynch and Craven, and where the whole mission is like, we're gonna have these guys go in and they're gonna destroy or capture the symbiotes. They're gonna acquire the symbiotes, but then we have a second team that's gonna come in and wipe that whole base out and kill them, and then we're gonna grab the symbiotes. Now, why we gotta kill them, I don't know. Sacrifices have to be made. Why? We don't know. It's like if they go in and they get the thing and get it out, it's not like getting rid of them gets rid of the information that these things exist, because if you're grabbing them, then the team that kills them and then grabs it knows it exists. So is there a third team that's gonna? It's
There's just a continuous run of like murdering the previous unit.
yeah, right, right. Where does it end?
But
It's
there isn't, like, correct me if I'm wrong though, but like there's eventually they're going to publish a book, Team 7, that includes
yes,
like the first one and Deathblow and stuff. And
yeah.
I feel like they also got double crossed by IO or whatever organization is running them. So it feels like there's always a new Team 7 because the guys running Team 7 killed the first team. Like it seems to be a theme for some reason.
Or they're Suicide Squadish, where they just keep putting them in haphazard situations. Yeah, yeah.
They
They
know
had
there's a good chance they're going to die. Yeah.
yeah. So like they had Dane, Backlash, Grifter, and Deathblow were all on the original Team 7, and I think Lynch was as well. So yeah, and they all got powers, and they're all military guys. But the sequence here is they're working for Waylon. Hopefully, I'm getting that name right. And he was in the war room with Craven and kind of taking bets on whether the Team 7 guys, whether the WETWORKS guys would survive. But meanwhile, he had a double cross insider, like a double cross to the double cross, where he's got Mother One. We were just doing Cyberforce with Mother May I, so it's going to throw me off a little, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But they had Mother One, who was like on the helicopter with the strike team that's going to wipe out WETWORKS once they get out of the facility, except that they got out of the facility with the symbiotes already on, which was already sort of a double cross where the vampires purposely were making moves to get these guys there. So they must have been sort of like whispering in the ears of the people running the agency to get the WETWORKS guys there so that they can release the symbiotes on them so that they become superpowered. So they then survive the strike team that's supposed to double cross them. But oh no, it's a triple cross because inside of that war room, Wayan and his mother one are making moves to actually protect and get the WETWORKS people out of there after they have the symbiotes.
It's very convoluted. Yeah. It's like, it's a
yeah.
lot to keep track of like, who's an actual good guy in this series? Like, you know what I mean?
What is even a good guy in this series? Yeah, no, it's
It's,
all shades of
it's,
gray.
it's the
all
early
bad, but
90s.
sometimes done for the right reason.
Yeah, yeah, it's the whole anti-hero vibe, you know, no one's quite good, no one's quite bad, I guess. Um, cool image, double
Yeah.
page splash here.
Yep.
He's doing that thing that we talked about in issue 1 where he's, you know, leaving more negative space in certain areas.
Yeah.
I think it works pretty well on this page because dialogue wise, you can move a lot of that dialogue as they've done up here and obscure less of
Yeah.
the art. As
Yeah.
far as the text boxes, excuse me, go, the yellow text boxes, a little wordy. Like,
Yeah.
what those text boxes are supposed to be is a recap of WETWORKS in issue 1, right? Man, there's a lot to say, and I guess because they have to explain all these double and triple crosses. I was reviewing recently Tribe issue number 3, and they put this long bit of text inside the front cover, kind of recapping issues 1 and 2. Kind of helps out. Very wordy as well. And if you check my review, I mean, I don't know how effective it was. I got some plot points that I was like, oh, okay, now it's a little clearer to me. But there's a lot of weird kind of poetic literary writing that kind of is just, you know, not necessary. And I mentioned in that video, I really like what Marvel has always done with their recaps. Usually it's at the top of the first page and it's like, you know, Spider-Man, for example, you know, young Peter Parker bitten by a radioactive spider, uncle gets killed, learns about power and responsibility. He is Spider-Man, you know. Recaps should be short and sweet. They shouldn't be 6 text boxes. So if you can't kind of condense your concept to, you know, 2 or 3 sentences, it gets kind of long-winded and annoying to read, to be honest. So I get a little bit of that here.
Yeah. And with this space along the top, there was room to do just panels that recap the action, like just show the moments, you know, with a little bit of word, just to like, oh, this is what we just went through and we were here, this happened, this happened, this happened. And that could have been 6 panels across the top and then this big panel. That would have been a nice way to recap it.
Yeah, like relating to what you're saying, I remember a great series, All-Star Superman. That first page, I don't know if you remember, but it starts off with this like, you know, dying planet. You know, I'm probably getting this wrong, but like spaceship crashes on Earth, loving parents, you know, adopt kid or whatever. Like I just found visually and with words, like, man, they were just snappy and quick. And you're like, oh yeah, I recognize all this stuff. And boom, let's move on to the story. Like that was just such a great way to recap everything about Superman that you need to know, right? And again, short and sweet and visually interesting. So like you said, if you had a few panels at the top, you know, secret mission, double cross, alien symbiote, guns, you know, I don't know. Like that's how I kind of do it for WETWORKS.
Yeah. And the other thing, as with the lettering, I still, even with all this white space, I really don't like how they've placed this. I don't like that they've covered art, even though they have the space to not do it. And like over to the right here, if you just move those balloons up a little bit, get off the art, but then also bring that balloon tail over so that it's just coming in through that empty space down to the character rather than touching over this robot. And it's like, well, is the robot saying that? I don't think so. It's probably that other guy.
Yeah.
It would be hilarious if the robots all had lines.
I do think, like, I like the general idea of the layout, but yeah, you're right. I think if the image was maybe even, you know, the dialogue balloons moved up a bit more and the actual image just slightly more as well. So still, excuse me, keep the phylactery, the word balloons outside of the image. You still got room for that, but also move the image up so it's almost centered a bit more.
Yeah.
And this is one of those funny image pages I remember in Cyberforce issue 3, there's that shot of Pit and Ripclaw where they're fighting these I guess cyber
Oh
data
yeah,
goons,
yeah, yeah,
and there's just tons of dialogue. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Where they're having a conversation while they're fighting
Right.
these guys. This kind of feels like that too. It feels to me a little bit wordy for the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are talking a lot. But again, all the robots look awesome. A lot of detail was put in to making them very ornate. I love those thin limbs that they have and the way the robots feel like they just barely are kind of like thrown together.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. They look a little flimsy, you know, like
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
they very much do. They're very cool looking.
Last thing I would say about this one though, kind of a negative, is um the actual coloring on the Wetworks characters. Like
Uh-huh.
they're supposed to be golden and shiny, and you know, this would be a good opportunity to make them very bright and contrasty as opposed
Oh,
to all the other stuff,
uh-huh.
right? So they are trying to create, I guess, you know, on the big guy you can kind of see he's holding the robot up, so there's a bit of like shading and stuff. That's fine, but the actual gold part to me should really pop more than it's popping on this page here.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It just, the colors make it a little bit muddled. It's a great illustration, but everything feels kind of the same level of brightness and saturation. So just stuff gets lost. It's a little hard to make out some of the details on the left hand side there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. It's a good point. Yeah, they got 4 Wetworks people in there, several robots, one, two, three,
Yeah, I didn't
four
even know they had
robots.
4. See that last? Okay, I just saw him. The last guy at the bottom left. Like
Yeah,
I just feel
right.
not art wise, but color wise, he's getting lost a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is the first time I've noticed him, to be honest.
Yeah. Right. All these years later. Like, oh,
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
another
yeah.
guy then.
We're getting more Fazams and Vrumps as well.
Yeah. Then we get this cool panel that's an overlook panel. I mean, you've got the one guy in the background. You can really see him in his chair, and then figure in the middle ground, and then the 4 figures in the actual background that are surrounding fighting with the robots around them, which I I kind of wonder if we've got these really cool, you've got a splash page and then a double page splash with the close-ups, and then we get the distance shot. Does it almost feel like that should be the opposite? Like
Yeah,
if we,
maybe. Like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
because I kind of wonder if you opened on this page and then you're getting the storytelling of like dude who's watching people fight and the team and the robots. I don't, it's kind of a more intriguing page, really. And then they could go from this shot to those close-ups,
Yeah.
you know, the double splash. You could still go to the double splash page 2, 3, and then to the other splash for page 4, and then back to them in the room talking.
You could easily move these pages around for that if you're looking for a different effect, for sure. I'll
Yeah.
agree with you though. It is that splash is a great shot. I love the layering of it, right? The foreground character that we're just kind of almost like we're standing behind him as well, like we're
Yeah,
part
looking
of
over
the
his
scene,
shoulder. Yep.
you know. And then the middle ground with Dane, I assume that's who's there, and then the
Yep.
guys in the room. I will mention though, once again, this to me when I first saw it, I was like, oh, you know, there's Professor Xavier looking at
Oh,
Cyclops, looking at the X Men in the Danger Room, right?
the
Once
danger room.
again, the good old X Men inspired training sequence, right?
Yeah.
That we
But
get in Wildcats, that we get in Cyberforce. You know, all the X Men guys, they're just recycling a lot of that stuff. I will say, you know, give credit to Rob Liefeld to a certain extent. I do feel like Youngblood, even though it's still a team book, is fairly different from X Force and its themes and stuff. Where I think the X Men guys, Jim Lee, Wills, and Mark Silvestri, kind of stuck closer to what they'd been doing previously.
yeah, I agree. They all seem like their stuff. I mean, Mark Silvestri the most, because his concept actually was something he was going to pitch to Marvel as an X book. So that idea is the closest one for
His is
sure.
the most blatant kind of rip off. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and we've gone through their story stuff. No need to
No, no, no.
rehash. But yeah, it's a really cool page. Again, you can still break up word balloons more. They're really dense. I'm more like I like word balloons where there's like one point and then you have like the next balloon that connects to it. Like it can literally overlap and you make your next point in that. And then if you're getting to something really new, you get your balloon tail and you make another point. You know, just like distance the words, make each thing the reader has to read a small chunk of info.
Yeah, like I tend to, try to make it where one word balloon has one sentence. Sometimes I might fit two in there if they're short. Um,
Yeah.
but I was looking at this and I'm like, the thing is, it's just very wordy because most of these word balloons do just have one sentence in them if you really pay attention, but it's just a very long-winded sentence. A lot of
Yeah.
text.
By combining the symbiote's innate defense capabilities with my own advanced weaponry, we can launch a preemptive strike and rid the world of some unnecessary scum. So I'd definitely break that up into at least two. Make that
Yeah,
weaponry point, and then just go ahead and
exactly.
overlap the balloon. I also like breaking them down because of the fact that by getting them smaller, you can cover less pieces of art, and so the eyes visually
That's
connect it
it. Yeah,
more.
absolutely. And it's funny too because on the previous page, even though we talked about the layout, the phylactery, the word balloons could be a little bit higher. Here's a perfect opportunity to have those three word balloons at the bottom of the character there. Just pop it into negative space and don't not I mean he's not
Yeah.
covering up a super important part of the art, but he still
No.
is. So it's like you've got that space, why not use it?
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to have a bunch of negative space, but then not
Not
use
not use it. Yeah, exactly.
the art.
Like
Yeah.
if you're not using it for the art because for some sort of like design kind of
Yeah.
concept that he's got that he's using,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But then yeah, use it for the lettering. You know what I mean? I do
Yeah.
really like. I want to mention. I've probably mentioned last review, but that Wills is doing some pretty solid backgrounds overall in the
Mhm.
series, and I just really like the background of whatever facility. Once again, they're in warehouse, whatever the metal works on the ceiling and stuff. It's as opposed to a lot of the other image artists, he still puts in a little bit of time on the backgrounds, and I appreciate that because it really does help evoke the environment that they're in really well, and I buy it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, good. I got the name Waring. I was saying Waylon, Wayin. Yeah, Waring. Yeah, and they're having just obviously there's this sort of test out sequence. They're testing out the Wetworks new powers with the symbiotes. But meanwhile, Dane thinks he's putting it on a little strong, and Dane and Waring are having just sort of an argument back and forth of, I don't exactly trust you, but I need to work with you because we're kind of in a pickle here. And like, well, working with me, there's a lot of good things we can get done. So you're going to need to trust me. And
Yeah,
that's,
you kind of have no choice, right? Yeah.
yeah, you're kind of stuck, but
Who else is
it's,
helping you out right now? No one.
and we do get another one of those close-ups facial shots that you mentioned before. Like in panel 2, we've got the facial shot, and then in panel 3, the same freaking angle, just closer. Change it up.
Yeah, it's
Have it
weird. It's this
burn.
thing that he keeps doing that's a little bit annoying. Like even what is it? What's
Yeah,
his name? Waylon. Even
and
Waylon
Waring,
has kind of the same thing happening again on this page. Yeah.
Waring. His name's
Um,
Waring. But
Waring.
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
try to.
it's
I'll just call him W.
yeah, but just like yeah, he's facing you front and center at the top panel, and then you get to panel 3, and it's a close up of him still staring at you front and center, and
Yeah.
Dane's looking this way, and then it's a closer of him looking this way. Like just switch
Yeah.
those up.
And this is
Just
a
have Dane doing a look of like over the
just
shoulder for the next one.
just take what you're doing here and just add a bit of just alternate a little bit more where W is from the front in that first panel, and then panel 3 have him in profile, and then have Dane in profile in panel 2, but then a head-on shot in panel 4, right? Just
Yeah.
a little bit of differentiation there. And that shot of his eye being red, I always
Mhm.
thought was kind of curious. Like, I don't know a lot of people who have red eyes other than
Yeah.
albinos, right? So I don't think he's an albino. So is that some sort of foreshadowing of maybe, I don't know if that eventually happened in the series, but is he maybe a vampire or
Or
something
a
supernatural?
werewolf.
A werewolf? Yeah,
Because if he's into war, if he's trying to push the Wetworks to go wipe out vampires, it would make a lot of sense if he was secretly a werewolf. He does have pointy ears and red eyes, so
Yeah,
maybe.
and since the double, triple, quadruple cross seems to be a huge part of Wetworks, that would play into that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then we get rando scientists that are kind of fashionably dressed. I mean, they got like multiple sweater layers, so they look a little less scientist and a little more richy investors.
Yeah, they look like they're wearing like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or something. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. They look like they were about to bid on these guys as like bodyguards. Like, oh yeah, this new WETWORKS bodyguard. Yeah, I'll take one of those.
Solidly invested money, I'm sure.
Yeah, so they visually don't connect to the story role that they're actually playing. But the testing goes on, and they're amping up the testing, and it's starting to break down the the WETWORKS people. Wow, close on that one. You know,
Cyberworks,
yeah, the CyberWorks,
Wet Force.
the Wet
Ooh,
Force, yeah.
Wet
Boom.
Force sounds a little weird. All right, let's move
But
on.
yeah, so many shots coming in that it's starting to hurt. It's starting to like push the armor to the limits. And Dane's not liking how they're testing his people, and he's starting to let them know.
Yeah, kind of funny to me how Dane, like, I know he's like, spoilers, he's going to kind of get involved a little bit in the action here. But the fact that he's kind of just an observer while these guys are training, but he still has all of his gear on, like he's ready for war, kind of a, you know, I don't know if that's an image thing, but
Yeah, well, that's how much you trust him. That's how much you trust Warren. He just keeps
oh, I got you.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a bit more of that repetition that we've been talking about, right? You
Yeah.
know, great, cool, almost splash page shot of Dane kind of head on, and then the close up zoom in panel where it's pretty much the same. You know, we're just zooming into that splash page. So
Yeah, it really
odd choice.
and it doesn't add anything by not changing the direction or giving us a lot more detail, change the angle. It's just an extra panel.
And you could take that panel out and just take his word balloon and throw it over top of the splash page, pretty much in that same area, and you'd have the same effect.
Yeah, it really doesn't help anything. I think this comic is 3 panels a page, average.
Yeah.
All the splash pages and whatnot. But then we get, this awesome sequence where, we get one angle, he blasts through the glass, then he's jumping through, and these overlap in a really cool way. I mean, the shards from panel 1 kind of fall into panel 2, and then all this debris from panel 2 is falling down into panel 3, and then you've got the open panel for 3 with just a little like shading of ground for him to land on with all the destruction. Awesome looking panel, very action packed.
Yeah, I like all the debris falling down. Really looks cool. The fact that also in that second panel, his leg and a bit of the smoke from the gun is overlapping the panel, creating that extra bit of layering. Looks really cool. The one thing I would say, there's obviously a huge trope in comics of characters jumping through windows. It always looks a little funny where a character's jumping through the window, but there's no bits of glass in front of him kind of overlapping. I always feel that it's important to throw that overlapping chunks of glass just to really drive home the point of the motion of the glass breaking out. It doesn't ruin the image for me, but it would have been nice just to have a few overlapping pieces maybe there.
Well, I wonder if in this one, because typically they're smashing through, and in this case, he shot the window.
Oh, he did shoot it first. Yeah, you're right.
So
and another other opportunity for a funny sound effect, baskash.
Oh,
sounds like a Middle Eastern dish. I'm gonna have some baskash for supper tonight. Bit of hummus,
Yeah, why even do it? Yeah. I think we get 8 panels here. And Dane just goes to work. He's blasting. We see him, what we see is a robot get hit. He blasts, another robot get hit. The team is reacting, he's coming to save the day. Now all the robots are just down. He took them out in 3 panels. No big deal. Done with that.
Well, what was his point really in doing this? Is it like, man, you guys are pussies? Let me show you how to kill these and destroy these robots here.
This was his, you pushed my team too far, and this is over. I'm
and also then kind of saying I'm more of a badass than these other guys on the team, right?
In that, it's a little much. It would have been better if he jumped in, and because of some stuff he did, the rest of the team was like, oh, I got an opening now. And then everybody else jumped in and helped rather than like.
If he joined in rather than just coming in and laying waste to everything.
Yeah. They kind of make him look like Superman on the Justice League in this situation. Like, why are the rest of you even here?
Exactly. Yeah.
The title goes on and it's just wet work. And it's just Dane doing it. It becomes like Bloodstrike, where it's just the one dude who's still there, but he doesn't even need the team. Yeah, you got Warren up in the now broken window looking down. That's kind of cool. Would have been nice for that to be a little more detailed panel. I mean, he's in shadow, so we can assume he's unhappy about it. And then you get that little close-up eye with the alternate panel border, just doing an interesting shape. It works fine for this one.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of layout overall, very kind of different and designy. You know, you don't really get one really standard panel. You get maybe the one just before the end there, but everything else is
Yeah.
overlapping and angled and broken borders and stuff. So interesting layout for sure.
And we were seeing Willis do this in X Factor and then in Uncanny X-Men before coming here. But when you see him do it in Marvel, if you go back and look at those issues, you see him like stick his toe into the water of this. Like he'll do it for a couple panels and then they'll be very standard style
Yeah,
versus left to his own devices. He's just going all out on it now.
absolutely. Yeah. I remember Tom McFarlane talking about that, where he's like, I didn't start off throwing in all my crazy shit right away. I did it, issue by
Uh-huh.
issue, little by little, where they don't really notice it. And then
Yeah.
eventually, because those early Amazing Spider-Man issues, Spider-Man's got that McFarlane look, but if you notice, the webbing is still pretty spaced apart, almost like the
Uh-huh.
classic John Romita kind of looking Spider-Man. And then as the series progresses, he just keeps bringing those lines closer together, where there's more and more webbing on the costume, where
Uh-huh.
he slowly turns into the McFarlane Spider-Man that we know, which is smart, right? He's kind of
Yeah.
playing around the editors, basically.
Yeah, good tactical move. Just kind of slowly working it in rather than just showing up like, look, I'm doing everything different. And then, they're gonna
That's
go,
it.
no.
Yeah, he knew he'd have editorial resistance, so he's like, I'm just gonna do it piece by piece, so they don't quite notice it.
Yeah. Then we get our plot advancement / cheesecake page.
Yeah.
So we get the sexy blood queen who's taking a bath because that's what vampires like to do. They like to bathe. They like the what is it like? Look at how lavish my life is. I have all these servants who bathe me. I don't even need to bathe, but I'm just going to do it for the
and
empowerment.
and subtle kind of lesbian-y overtones as she's being served by only women,
Who are barely dressed and why? Yeah.
right?
Uh, she's got her guard there, who I think is probably the same woman who shot the symbiote tank to release the symbiote under one of the Wetworks guys in issue 1 to sort of like
Oh
get
yeah,
rolling. I think that's her. And then
but
they've
it's
got,
I could almost mistake her for one of the Wetworks girls. You know what I mean? Like
oh,
to
oh,
me, her costume design and she's got some gear and stuff. I know she's
yeah.
not, but I'm like, I feel like the design's a little too similar. Should have been a little bit different, but
Well, the problem is the fact that they're doing this yellow color background and giving them yellow skin tone, and we're looking at golden warriors and then yellow vampires. It's like, yeah,
it's
it's
yeah,
hard
it's
different.
it's a little too similar. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And then her brother, I think Draken,
yeah.
who is trying to rival his sister, the Blood Queen, and take over. He wants to be in charge. I'm pretty sure that's unless he's just an outsider. But yeah, he's trying to take over, and he's got his force that he's rallying around him. And the guard's like, "We could take him out; it'd be no problem." And she's like, "Ah, it's not really as big a deal. It's not a problem. Just
Yeah, they're
not."
trying to establish some sort of power struggle within the vampire community. Yeah.
Yeah, but nice with the television screens and the overlapping so that we're getting multiple shots. So like we get the people in the crowd, we get the crowd around the leader, we get just the facial shot of the leader, and then another facial shot of the leader, but at a different angle. Not just a
Thankfully.
yeah, you did it here. It's nice.
Yeah, and I appreciate the kind of just the comic book panel layout on the screen, almost like, it is a screen, but you're still kind of reading a comic. It's kind of like what's that? The uh fourth fourth wall breaking a little bit there. I kind of like that.
Yeah. And then they just keep talking strategy and the problems with Draken and him trying to rise up. And is it on this page? Not rereading it now, but is it on this page that she reveals she's been kind of after Dane for a little while?
I don't remember quite exactly from reading it because there's a lot to read, but from the amount of dialogue on this page, I would assume that that's where they reveal it.
Yeah, hopefully. But that's one of the story points is that the Blood Queen herself has been interested in Dane and is kind of wants him as like a guard or something as an agent. Uh nice again, nice little alternative layout. Like we're getting very standard panels, but we're getting them laid out where it descends down and then descends back up into this open border panel that really puts that white space to use with just the tub standing in the white space. Kind of like other comics do where you just have that doorway
Yeah.
in the white space and some shadow, but instead it's the tub with the servants and then them walking towards us. It's a very nice layout. The
And even though like it's pretty common all throughout Wetworks where he does stuff like this, where you do have an individual page on the left and an individual page on the right, but it does end up feeling like a double page spread, right? Like
yeah,
it feels like one big page.
yeah, totally, absolutely,
And I like that last shot of her kind of out of the bath and walking
yeah,
off in the negative space, those little bits of water on the ground. Again, another good use of the negative space.
yeah, it's good. This cool poster pin up in the middle of the book, very different art style, but very detailed, very cool. Like if Willis was going to take a break, this looks like a good artist to have
Yeah,
fill in for an issue.
yeah, 100% solid work. Got some big knives, some big guns, all the Wetworks accoutrements. Looks really cool.
Yeah,
Except for
the
that
vampire.
stupid visor thing that I continue to say, I just get rid of that.
Oh, it's
I
just coming. Yeah, that's coming. The visor you hate is coming. This is the
oh
preview of it.
God.
Yeah. Maybe it's a Dark Knight influence from them having those little visors.
The mutant thing,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Vampire's got tattoos, all kind of arm hair details. Cool
Yeah,
looking image. That's
good
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 choice.
good variety of textures too. Like sometimes with the homage guys, Jim Lee and Wills, a lot of the textures tend to be similar, very kind of slick and metallic looking. Where here, I do feel that the Wetworks guy looks metallic, right? But even I think the metal between the symbiote and the gear is different, and then the vampire and his body hair and stuff all works really well to differentiate all the different textures.
Very
I don't
cool.
know who this guy is. I've never seen any of his other stuff. So
Yeah. Have to look them up.
yeah.
Very cool spread.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
love this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say again, another good example of Will's Portasio's just insane, amazing backgrounds. Really poured it on this page, right? I can guarantee that he spent, very short amount of time on the figures on this page and a lot of his hours getting this spread done on the backgrounds and that computer technology and stuff. Looks amazing, looks great. Just love all of that. And he's very talented and does a good job at it for sure.
Yeah. And so this is Craven and Lynch going through where they're reviewing the tapes, which that's kind of a cool follow up of like they didn't know everything that happened. We the reader knew what was going on, but they just knew that these golden warriors that came out of the facility wiped out all their agents. And like, oh no, so we missed out the symbiotes. Actually, yeah, that was the Wetworks team. Oh no, so they not only got away and they had the symbiotes. Ugh.
And they know we tried to kill him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're probably going to be upset about that, and they're more powerful than they used to be. Ugh.
Not a great scenario for these guys.
No, very bad. Some standard, well, close to standard panels. It's getting close, but he's still getting them little angles and turning them.
Yeah, it's
So he's,
cool. I like it.
yeah, very cool setup.
And I like
Oh,
how the technology and the computers and stuff in that top panel frames the characters, and then they themselves are again standing in the negative space. That really
yeah,
visually is easy to read, right?
yeah, totally agree. And the figures that are, they're kind of the shady government sort of bad guys. They continue to be in these dark tones and in shadow. So
Yeah,
you always have this nefarious feel.
they're the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And having seen them in Death Blow, I appreciate them being in these kind of silhouettes because kind of connects to the art style that was used there, so they still feel familiar, like they're the same guys.
Yeah.
Oh, then we move on to this plot point. I believe this is where they're trying to get their hands on the weapon. So there's one group moving this weapon, and then there's the rogue vampire group led by Draken that wants to take this weapon so they can release it at this giant concert so that they can wipe out all these people in New York. And the concerts, the lead figure is the Queen's brother. I think I've mixed that up. It's the Queen's brother who will be singing there, and he would be the next in line. So they want to go wipe him out.
Gotcha.
They're going to wipe out the next in line first as a strike.
Do you think that's in any way, I just had this thought now, somewhat kind of inspired by Watchmen, right? Because when the squid appears, everyone was going to this concert in Madison Square Garden. I forget the name of the band or whatever, but like, you know, I know the influence that WETWORKS has had on all these guys at Image. So it's just, I'm just curious about it. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, not the same. I get what, like, on a surface level that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
does
yeah.
sound similar. Yeah, of
So,
having this mass weapon release. Yeah.
these pages I think are drawn really well, but I feel like the coloring is not helping them. These, you know, overall the book's been pretty solid and easily kind of visually read, but these
Yeah.
few pages specifically just feel very kind of murky and hard to visualize and read properly.
Yeah, what would have been nice is panel 3 on the left page, where you've got the monster coming in out of the dark. That would stand out so much more significantly if the panel above and below were brighter, because the panel above it's on the outside. So go ahead and have more light shining, and then, like, oh, inside the vehicle it's dark and this monster's coming in out of the shadows. And then
Yeah,
go ahead.
I don't think each of those panels having the same kind of dark orangey tones helps it. You would
Yeah,
have to differentiate panels 2 and 4 to panel 3 somehow with the colors.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it would stand out. Absolutely. And then yeah, and then it's interesting again. You get an overhead shot, which is a good way for us to kind of see everything that's going on. Like, we see that the sort
The
of like,
setup. Yeah.
yeah, and we're seeing that, like, the support, the protection has already been wiped out. Now there's just a main vehicle, which is now stopped in front of the vampires, and they've got their cool team shot of like, hey, what's up? We're here to, and then but then they just tell him, like, you're all gonna die and we're gonna take that thing. Oh, you don't need to bother saying that then. You could just go ahead and do it. Oh, I think it was like, if you surrender, we'll kill you quick. But if you don't, we're going to be mean about it.
Yeah, and this shot, I'm just gonna say, always kind of reminds me a little bit of the introduction of these vampire guys. It almost looks a little bit like the Lost Boys movie. I always feel like they're
Oh,
kind of dressed
yeah.
the same in the hairstyles and stuff.
Yeah.
I can
Totally.
almost imagine like the guys from Lost Boys, even though they get killed in the movie. Let's say they survived. Eventually, when you know, got became a bit older, and this is those guys in their 20s doing some missions for the vampire cult that they're part of.
Yeah.
I like to think these are the Lost Boys.
Then there's the weird tangent at the bottom, these bottom 3 panels where they're closing in on the face of the lead vampire, but they've got this gold color. So visually, my mind's like, oh, is he having that wetwork symbiote armor coming out? Is that why they're closing?
Yeah,
And that's not what's happening. But visually,
not at
that's what
all.
my mind thinks.
Yeah, it's like, does he have a symbiote as well? Like, yeah.
Yeah, they really needed to get away from the use of gold color when not applying it.
You would think that would be something where it's like, hey man, since the guys, you know, are colored gold, we should only ever use it when it's on those characters. Any other time, you're right that we see it, it tends to be a little bit confusing and like lead us to think that other characters might have the symbiotes, or the symbiotes might be around or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
should have been avoided.
yeah.
But again, color wise, those are 2 of the worst kind of pages, I think.
Yeah. And then we get the giant mission briefing with 5 panels across a 2-page spread, and the team all hanging out kind of relaxed while we get just a wash of text about, hey, they just grabbed this weapon and they're going to go release it at this stadium, and we got to get in there and stop the vampires from doing that. A lot of text and the repetition of the same layout. I would have liked, of the layout of the facility they're going to go to, rather than repeating the image. I would have liked show all of the image in the first panel and then show different angles to like a different corridor. Like here's the overall, and now we're going to move in through here, and this is where the
Yeah, as you're moving, as if you're moving through the facility. Yeah,
Mhm.
agreed.
Yeah.
Um, I, I'm also confused with the shot at the top about the proportions of some characters. It's a cool looking shot, but then if
Mhm.
you really start paying attention, you know, the big guy leaning on the pillar in the background, I assume, is the big guy of the team. But then the guy in the foreground is very similar to him. So I don't know which is which between, like, who's the big guy of the gang? Is it the guy on the pillar or is it the guy in the foreground? I don't quite know. And then the guy on the left, the guy with the bandana and the glasses, is taller than all of them, right?
Yeah.
Because there's that rule in, I remember learning this from Wizard, from the basic drawing section that they would have. I forget what it was called, but they would, it started off with Bart Sears, Brutes and Babes, right? He was,
Mhm.
giving you tips on how to draw comics. And then for a while, Greg Capullo was doing it. And he explained that, like, you know, no matter where the characters are layer wise, foreground, underground, background, the eye line is kind of what, or the horizon, but let's say where their eyes are, kind of determines how tall they are, right? Through those different planes. So in this image, it's really quite confusing because the guy, if you follow that logic, the guy with the bandana and the glasses is taller than everyone. And then who I assume is supposed to be the big guy is bigger than all these guys in the middle ground, but smaller than Bandana Dude. And then the characters in the background are just very tiny. There's an odd kind of thing where I'm really confused about everyone's proportions in this shot. It's like you've got really, really small people and then giants. It's a bit odd.
Yeah.
Reading the book real quickly, you probably don't notice it, but spending a little time on this image, there's some proportion stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, I was going to point out there's 9 characters on this team. That's almost like you should just know some of these guys are going to die. You're just not going to have a 9-person team that's this similar. Some of them have to go. Some of these people are here to perish.
Some of these characters should have been wearing red shirts.
Yeah, right. There's a couple of them like foreshadow, they're going to get down to 7 members for sure.
And already, man, 7 members for a team that,
Is our yeah,
visually are quite similar. That's already a lot. 9?
yeah, 9. You know some of them are going to go. Keep that in mind, kids. Anytime you see a 9-person team introduced, a couple of them ain't making it.
Someone's dying.
Yeah. Uh, then we go to Dane, who's has this dream. And we talked, it was weird. You brought it up about his eyes.
It's just the one shot in the book where I feel the art's a bit off, where it looks like he's been, like, he's got puffy face or puffy eyes, like a little bit like Rocky at the end of a boxing match,
Oh,
right? And it
yeah,
just looks a little funny to me.
right. The eyes protrude kind of like a lizard.
Yeah, you're right. And maybe, he should have had him like with 2 slices of cucumbers or something, just to get that puffiness down.
And yeah, he has this sort of nightmare going on. It's close. His eyes open. Well, sort of. It's like they open in the dream or are they opening in real life, reacting, and he gets smashed by his claw, and then it's just a fallback. Would have been cool to have a claw coming through in panel 5 where he's falling back, just to
Yeah.
keep it like we know, and then in the final panel, like still have some claw hit his face because it's
And
only the one indicator of an enemy.
the fact that it's a dream, it should have been like, I don't know if their intent was like, okay, we want it to be a dream, but maybe not be so obvious, because I can
Yeah.
understand that. So there are some slight cues in the art where the panel starts to become irregular, and that's kind of one cue that we're moving into a dream.
Mhm.
But the coloring as well, I feel like they kind of tried to do a kind of more kind of smoky, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Panel 5, the colors feel a little bit more kind of not desaturated, but the blacks aren't quite black. They're a little bit like lighter. But I think if you're going for that effect, you should have done something a bit more stark with the colors. Maybe go monochrome or really bright, as opposed to the darker colors. Something. But again, I'm thinking that their intent here is that you're not cluing in that it's a dream right away. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they should have done that.
Yeah, I mean, verbally they tell him that he's in like a nice slumber, and then a voice from the past draws him out into this same nightmare he's been having. So yeah, they tell us in words.
Oh, they do, eh? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, then
And then
if you are saying it in words, then you should also add all those effects. Then, if your intent is to tell us, make it
yeah,
visual as well, right?
yeah. And the nightmare escalates. You've got probably I'm guessing that's the vampire rebel Draken coming after him, and then just all these dead on pikes. That's reminiscent of um Vlad Dracul.
Yeah, the Impaler, Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler, yeah. And then we get this foreshadowing in the dream of like the armor not protecting him against a vampire. It's separating away to let a vampire bite him.
Well, like yeah, like any hero or comic character, you know, who's very powerful, you got to find some sort of weakness or Achilles heel. So, I mean, it makes sense since they're facing off against the vampires that these symbiotes would have some sort of weakness to them, or I guess the
Yeah.
vampires can control them somehow.
Now, is it just vampires, or is necking his weakness against anybody? Like, if you're going to get romantic with his neck, the armor will let it happen.
That's gonna leave a nasty hickey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just a dream. Yeah, that dream I've been having for 6 years. Ugh.
Yeah, you would
It's
think
weird.
if he's been having it for 6 years, he wouldn't like wake up yelling. He'd just be like, "Oh, that dream again."
Well, it's also weird if it's been going on for 6 years for him to wake up and be like, it was just a dream. She should wake up and be like, "Ugh, that same dream. Why do I keep having, like, I've never encountered this. This has never happened to me in real life. So why do I keep having this
Yeah,
same dream, this same fear at night? What happened in life previously, or what influenced me that I keep having nightmares about this same scenario that I've never encountered?"
yeah, and it's like, you know, time wise, you could pick, you know, I've been having the same dream for 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. That's pretty, like, I just feel like, you know, plot wise, concept wise, that's a long period of time to be having dreams that are premonitions. You know what I mean? That's basically what he's having here. So, like, to me, for the last 6 weeks, we started planning ever since we started planning for that mission. I've been, 6 weeks ago, which seems like a
Yeah.
reasonable amount of time. I've been having these dreams. I would even be okay with 6 months, but for some reason, 6 years just seems like a ridiculous amount of time to be having this dream.
Yeah, it's so long that those additional panels, instead of like a panel where he just looks and sees like, oh, it's 4:03 and I've been woken up, like he should still be talking. Like I've seen experts, I've talked to them, I've tried to find, is there a symbolism?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
maybe figure it out. It just keeps happening. Because meanwhile, we know from previous pages that the Blood Queen has been interested in him. So there's could be some influence there from that. And maybe Draken knows she's interested, so he's been haunting him. Maybe. So yeah, it'd be good to pepper in some more details. So like he's already tried to do something about this, and maybe he's thought about it, rather than just telling us it's a dream. We already know that.
Exactly. Yeah. And can you go back real quick?
Next
Um,
week.
just the last panel. I'm gonna look in the book because it's really small, and
Uh,
I'm not sure, but to me, it kind of almost looks like he's like maybe jerking off. Like, he's been stressed from the dream. He's like,
yeah, I
let
mean, he's
me.
sitting there in his hands there.
It's you know what I mean. Like I'm looking at it here in the comic,
Uh,
and I mean, oh
Probably
man,
just in his hands there, buddy. But yeah,
ah, man, that's just an unfortunate, weird tangent. He should have moved that arm in a different direction because it's like, man, this dream really stressed me out. Let me crank one out just to like calm down here.
yeah, now, yeah.
And how he's going to do that with no genitals, I'm not sure. But yeah, just kind of an unfortunate arm tangent there.
They could have had him sleep with pants on.
Yeah, yeah. So there we go. That is it,
Yeah.
to be continued in issue number 3. Is there anything else in the back matter that's kind of interesting? Not really. No. All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it for today and our WETWORKS review. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, WETWORKS coming along late, obviously a year and a half after it was supposed to be. Somewhat good, I guess, because we would have had the fourth team book coming along right after the other ones. Youngblood stands out because they're the celebrity superheroes. But if you get this book and Cyberforce so close together, there's
Yeah, very
a lot of
similar kind of
crossover.
stuff and themes for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, you're right. Yeah,
yeah. Wildcats not super unique, but I guess it
it
stands
does.
out from these two.
Out of the Homage Studio books, I definitely feel like Wildcats is slightly more original and different from the other two. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned it last time because Willis had worked on Legion of the Night, I think it was called, at Marvel, and they did 2 issues and there was some supernatural stuff. So I wonder if like he had leftover thoughts, ideas, concepts from that. And then, as you've mentioned before, big fan of the movie Predator. So he's got his big muscle bound strike force team. As we'll see, you've got your sniper, you've got your giant guy with a Gatling gun, you've got your muscular leader who is always the best no matter what. And you got your face guy. Like the A team. You got face though.
Face. Yeah, yeah,
Who's concerned about his looks, persona. So a
yeah.
few people stand out a little bit.
I mean, it's not clearly WetWorks not a wholly kind of original concept. There's nice little new touches here and there, but you're kind of combining, like you said, the military, the paramilitary team from Predator with the symbiotes, which are kind of in vogue now with Venom and Carnage and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a bit of a mishmash of all that stuff there.
And they're
sure.
a T2 symbiote. They're a liquid metal symbiote.
Right. So all of that stuff we've talked before, obviously, about the huge influence of those canon action movies. Not just as us as kids watching them, we enjoyed it. The comic guys were into that stuff too, and it makes sense with the popularity of that stuff to integrate some of that stuff into their comics, right? It just makes good marketing sense, I think.
Yeah. I think it's
All
it.
right. Yeah, that's where we're going to leave it for today, guys. So I'm going to go through the spiel. Everyone out there, if you're watching and you're still subscribed, Mark and I definitely appreciate it. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you. Really helps the channel out, helps us grow, and it helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. Speaking of comic books, Mark and I make our own. You can check out Mark's stuff at Big Cartel. He's got Guano Guy. He's got Darkest Image. He's got Super, the Kayfabe of a Death. I gotta keep doing that now. Yeah.
Your brain takes the 3 keywords and just
jumble them around. I'm gonna start with of next time. That's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, sorry. Kayfabe, the Death of a Super is the book, which is kind of a reimagining, a more R-rated version of the Death of Superman from the early '90s. Really cool book that I was lucky enough to participate in. Really a fun project. And again, you can get all Mark's stuff at Big Cartel. For me, it's KingComics.CA. I've got 13 issues of my epic Big Baby series, and I've got my 32-page one-shot, one-and-done psychedelic cosmic sci-fi adventure STARCRASHER. So once again, you can check all that at KingComics.CA. And that's where we're going to leave it today. Mark, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. Always fun to chat comics. And that's going to do it for us, guys. So thank everyone out there for watching, and have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!